This video was supposed to be one of the easiest ones in the series. I don't know how, but 3 days of recording and several hours of editing, I threw the whole thing away because I got bored editing it. That's how incredibly boring it was. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to go straight to the interface. I'm going to show you on examples how to do different types of orders, and maybe at the end I'll blab about something for a little bit so you can listen to that or not. Let's go to the interface. First thing we're going to stop by and visit is Sierra's. The reason we're going to stop by and visit it is because we just about cloned it. Imitation is sincerest form of flattery. We're not going to visit the second part of that quote. Let's just pretend it doesn't exist in fact. But Sierra does have it figured out rather nicely. And the purpose behind nearly copying it was so that anybody that's familiar creating orders inside of Sierra would already know how to operate our interface. Also, you can look at Sierra's extensive documentation to catch up to anything that you don't know. So it should help. But the basic principle here is this. You click add, you get a target. You click add, you get a stop for a full bracket. You select type of offset. So away from current price, where it is that your entry is going to be. And you select the order type. Now, this is important. Sierra has a whole library of, in some cases, fairly exotic order types. We are adding them, but we're adding them to live version of our program, which to normal users is not available yet. We do trade with this, but for at least the initial wave, we're going to let you test and then graduate over to the live version. Same exact functionality. You don't lose anything, but we're going to have a conversation and we're going to sign some risk acceptance documents when you go from trial to live trade, once you're satisfied with all your strategies as they perform in backtest, of course. So all that to say, not all the types are populated in the backtest only version, and you're going to see that in ours. Everything else is just about the same. Different options unlock based on different selections that you make. So if you're under target, or let's say if you're under stop and you do a trigger trailing stop, trigger trailing stop, you do have a couple more options unlocked to the interface that you can configure. So with that, let's go to ours. Orders. Sticking to the same theme, we create a new one and we're just going to go straight into making one, and I'll show you how to make a simple one and then we'll go from there. So let's go to simple. We'll call it simple for that same reason. As you can see, the interface is pretty similar. Add, remove if you want to. You get a target, you get a stop. To pause for a second. We, unlike Sierra, require you to have a complete bracket, so balanced bracket, even number of targets and stops. We can't let you go with just one target. We can't let you go with 2 targets and 1 stop. So we can talk about it at the tail end of the video if you'd like. But complete brackets is the only thing that is configurable. Balanced brackets. Let's be clear. So target and stop. Let's, for sake of simplicity, do a target of it's going to be a limit order, and we'll do 4 points of NASDAQ. I think it's a bunch of zeros, but it doesn't matter. We just did 4. And for loss, we'll go 16. That's here's an important part that differs from Sierra, because they figured it out very nicely and we're still getting there. When you configure your value, whether it's offset or a study, you do want to hit save, because what just happened is I clicked away from it, and even over here 16, I never saved it. I clicked away from it and it did not save. Now if I click away from it, it's saved because I clicked save. Have to do it. So 4 against 16, so we win 4 points. We lose 16 if the trade goes against us. Click OK. That's it. That's all you need to go trading a very simple order. Now let's elaborate on that one step. We're going to go create a simple, complex. All right, so we'll go ahead and make our bracket. This time we're going to use a study offset. So what it means is, in a previous video, I showed you how to create signals in custom studies. Custom studies are one of those things that you can use in orders, as I mentioned again in the previous video. But for the sake of this video, what we'll know is we know that we have a custom study that samples a study of that's bolted onto CR chart of average true range, takes that value and the point in time that we're deciding to enter a trade, and uses that for our order. So for the sake of this example, we're going to assign a target that is going to be equal to a custom study that we created called ATR target. And it's basically a, whether a full ATR or a fraction or a multiple of an ATR. I don't remember exactly what we assigned it, but basically point in time evaluation of an average true range study off of Sierra. Essentially, we're making a dynamic order that will always scale with the market as it moves. And to complement it, stop. We'll do the same thing. We'll select study offset and we'll do an ATR stop. Now, these may be different. These may be the same. You can in fact assign them to be the same exact custom study. So it'll be a one-to-one order, one-to-one ratio of win to lose, but it'll be dynamic in terms of the value assigned to that target. And we're going to click save. See, I did it again. Study offset, target, click save. And okay, now we can just, to make sure that we did it correctly, go to simple 2, click on it, and we have a target and we have a stop over here. Target, stop. Now, let's take it a step further and complicate it a little bit more. Complex? Really not complex, but we'll call it that anyways. We'll do 2 this time. And for target 1, we'll select a value. Actually, not a static value, but a static offset. Difference being static value is a value of the chart. So let's say you're trading NASDAQ and let's say it's at 16,000. You're going to select that to be the entry. I don't often do this in the order builder. In fact, I never do this, but we left the option in there for those of you that want to use it. I don't see much utility, but there it is anyways. What I use is offset or study offset or study value. Study value is useful. So if you're entering, let's say off of a pivot point below you, which we'll talk about in a different video, or let's say a, what's that study called? Volume profile 30th percentile, for instance. This is where you're going to select study value and then you're going to reference the volume profile level. But for this, let's do a combination of a static offset. So we'll grab 20 points on the first target. We will then grab a study offset of a ATR based target for the second target. So yeah, I keep doing this. 20 points, save, study offset, ATR target, save. For the first stop, let's do 20 versus 20. So it's a 1-to-1 and we'll save it. For the second one, we'll do an offset of a stop. So basically we have 2 targets, we have 2 stops. They're both independently different. But target 2 goes with stop 2, target 1 goes with stop 1. So if they're different, they get knocked out in that sequence. Click OK. Now let's do something a little bit more complex. And this is really, I'm just running through these to show you the iterations of what can be done in the bracket creation. If you guys already know what type of bracket you want, more power to you. Explore the interface. It's really pretty self-explanatory. But just for those of you that have never seen it or haven't worked with bracket orders before, this may be useful. So let's make, once again, a 2-target bracket. This time we're going to mix in some break-evens and a trail stop. So let's do, for the first target, we'll create a study offset and we'll call that target value from our custom studies. For the second, see, I probably need to go make another one. Yeah, let's go do that real quick. So this is an interjection in the video. Let's go create a custom study of target 2. This should actually be pretty useful to see what it is. And we're going to declare ATR from last bar, and we're just going to return it. But we'll say an ATR times 2. Pretty simple, right? So we have ATR target. Let's go look at what that was. Oof. Complexity. Let's do this one. Demo. ATR times, so 3/4 of ATR, and we have a target 2, which is 2 times ATR. So now let's go make an order, and we'll go to this complex 2. First one, study value demo. So this is 3/4 of an ATR. Save. Target 2, study offset, and we'll call that target 2, which we just did, and it's 2 times, so ATR times 2. First stop is going to be a simple stop, and it's going to be an offset study referenced ATR stop. We can go check what that is. Custom studies, ATR stop, and it's actually 3 times ATR for that stop. Again, this is a demo, you can do whatever you want. ATR stop, and then stop number 2 is going to be trigger trailing stop. It's going to have study offset of a stop, so the stops are going to be the same 3 times ATR, but it will also have a trail. All of these also are able to reference any of the studies that we created. So it's going to have a trail offset that is, let's call it 3/4 of an ATR, and a trigger for that trail of, what is our first target? We'll call it our equivalent to our first target, which is demo. So 3/4. So what do we get? Once we hit the first target, second trailing stop is going to activate at a distance of 3/4 of an ATR, and it's going to go up with us or down, whichever direction that we decide to trade. And I guess let's make it once more just a level of complexity. We'll add a break even, and we'll call the break even in action at the same time when we hit our first target. So what does this bracket all do if we sum it up? Let's say we enter a long trade. We're going to have 2 targets and 2 stops. Both of the stops are going to be a distance of 3 times ATR away, because that is what we configured for the custom studies as a variable. The first target is going to be 3/4 of an ATR away. Once we hit it, a break even is going to kick in, so the second stop will immediately elevate to our entry. And then at the same time, that same stop will begin trailing at a distance of 3/4 of an ATR, which was at the time of entry. And it will be activated off of that same target 1 execution. So you can get very exotic with these if you want. I was testing something that we'll talk about in this next section, because I promised not to blab in the main section of the video. But for the main section, I think that is really it. I forgot to talk about something. Let's address it before we end this video or get into the blab section of the video. This guy right here, order type. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, Sierra has a lot of order types, which is really cool. They support a lot of interesting and useful stuff. In my live trading, for instance, I use this limit chase. There's several others that are very useful. The point is, of what I'm trying to make is we have a smart order, which is not on Sierra's list because Sierra is not an algo trading system from the get-go. They just allow us access to all these orders. So how smart order works is it determines, based on your entry point and the current price when the entry is requested, what it is that you want to do, and it picks between limit, stop, and market. And the shortest possible way to answer this is if you're buying and you place an order for something below you, it's going to be a limit order. So it's not going to fill until you come down to it. If you are entering something above you, it's going to be a stop buy order, so it will not fail until you actually touch it and crest over it. If you are entering current price, which is a setting under strategies, you will then be able to use, I think it does limit, and then once limit is touched, it becomes market. So it's a smart order is what we call it, but it is just a convenience factor for backtesting. When you go trading live, you will have the options to create very specific market orders that you want to use. We don't limit you in any way. This is just something that we found useful for backtesting that'll auto pick for you a level of convenience, if you would. Don't take this as a limitation by any means. In real trading, this tests out to be just about the same as the real trading results, at least in my experience. So something to be aware of, a little bit about how it works. And after this, we can probably get into the blab section of the video. So this is where the useful information ends. Okay, if you're still if you're still watching, I'm not even going to edit it. If you're still watching for orders content, this is it. There's nothing else here. You can skip over to the next video. This is for marginal entertainment purposes. The reason I'm putting it in this video is the whole program as it was built around this notion of orders, because, or bracket orders specifically. And back in the very first iterations of it, when it was basically a script that did, and there's a reason this video had 4 against 15. It did 4 against 15 because there was, in my earlier days of trading before algo was even in question, or I knew what algo trading was. I was a member of this group, which I guess I should not name, but it is ran, and I'm not, by the way, I'm not talking negatively about the group at all. This is just a learning experience for me, and I think it's valuable. Otherwise, the group is a wealth of knowledge for all kinds of trade directions. But the group is ran by this guy Don. Doesn't matter what kind of Don, just Don. And he's like the master assembler of this League of Justice, or what is the comics equivalent of superheroes? I don't really know comics all that well. Justice League, I think that's it. Anyways, so this is this Justice League of high-level elite traders. And you would normally bring into question how exactly elite they are if they make sort of a Netflix for traders. But again, I don't want to take anything away from them, and they do teach a lot of the stuff. To the point that I'm trying to make as it relates to orders. There's a guy in the group that specialized on futures trading. Let's call him Tony, because that was his name, so let's call him that. And Tony had a system which brought me to this whole idea of, why not just automate everything? If it's so simple, why not automate it? The system was very simply describable, and everything that had to do with rules for entry and exit were black and white written on a little notepad whenever they did their instructional videos. And it was always, do this and you will have success. We're after so many points, we're trading NASDAQ, we're doing these 4 against 15 or entries, so we always take 4 points, and we lose 15 if the trade goes against us. Now, this, mind you, anybody watching this in 2024 when these videos are coming out, middle of 2024, might find this ridiculous, but before pandemic, market moved a lot slower, a lot. So doing 4 against 15 trades didn't seem like that big of a deal. It moved slow enough for a click trader to be able to execute in and out of these trades fairly precisely. Like, you lose a point or two here and there, but it was not the kind of madness that we're dealing with now in terms of just the pace of tape. The reason, again, that we're talking about this 4 against 15 is because Tony was adamant that if only you stuck to the rules, you will be successful. Again, rules were simple, bracket was simple, and some of the first questions that I started asking these guys is, if it's so simple, why not create a bracket and just click once instead of doing this dance of left click, right click? Because they went through different softwares as well, from Thinkorswim to Trade-of-8 to, I think that's where they stuck. But again, doesn't matter. It was quite complex, at least for a beginner trader, to try to buy stop in some cases versus buy market versus buy limit. Same with sell. It could get you in trouble, especially if the tape is moving a little bit faster than normal. And I didn't get a good answer. It was something along the lines of, well, it's always better to manage something manually if you can do that well. I'm like, yeah, if you can do that well, but if the rules are rules and if we stick to them, shouldn't we have success? Anyways, moving on. The second question I started asking is, if the rules are the rules and they're so black and white and you spell them out letter by letter, why don't you automate it? What is to stop you from doing the same thing across multiple charts? Because he traded NASDAQ, he traded ES sometimes. I think he may have traded Russell, maybe not, it doesn't matter. So the question was along the lines of, if your rules work and they rely on these magical numbers, he had some magical vertical levels, or rather horizontal levels on the chart that he prepared as homework, why not just do that? Why not script it and automate it and send it? And again, I didn't exactly get an answer that made any sense. It was just no answer whatsoever. So this is how the beginning of our journey with algo trading started. And this was I want to say, the first iteration of Octopi Trader ever was. It was a script that traded these simple rules with bracket orders that were basically 4 versus 15. And very quickly we arrived to the answers that all of you are probably watching and saying, yeah, you dumbass. This was so obvious. Well, how come you didn't know this? I was once a beginner, so forgive me. And the answer was, given a large enough set of numbers, the 4 against 15 or 4 against 16 trade was always a 75% win trade, because that is essentially what 4 against 16 is. You win more, you lose less. When you lose more. That's just what it is. But the philosophy in that group evolved, and they picked, I guess they sort of elevate their game a little bit, and they then went after slightly more complex of a bracket, which is a little bit of what I showed you earlier. They said, oh, well, now what we're going to do is we're going to enter 2 contracts, and we're going to have a take profit level, and we're going to have a break even. And basically we're going to first take profit at 4 points. I think it may have been 4 or 5. I think was the market liquid pace, not liquidity, as the market amplitude elevated later after COVID. I think he went to 10 points. I didn't stick around the group anymore, obviously, but it was like 10 points, 10 take profit for the first target, and then a break even. And then the second target was managed as a runner, and it was manually managed for, maximum that you can get based on what you feel like. Again, some of that feel was based on these magical vertical levels, but the point being, take profit and a runner. So when making Octopi in its later iteration, we basically made every possible way to create order brackets that are based on anything that you could possibly put into them, whether it's horizontal levels, whether it's study values, whether it's dynamic trailing offsets, with basically whatever you imagine, including things I didn't show you, like you can base your next target or like the consecutive targets and its stops on previous order components like target 1. So if you want to create a target 2 that's based on target 1's initial distance and increment it a little bit and make this 5-stair ladder, if you want order with a common stop, you could do that. So basically anything goes. So that was our inspiration, and this is your little story as to how Octopi Trader, before it was Octopi Trader, was born. And now there's an interface, and you guys can use it too, and I hope you will. So with that, strategies is next on the menu. We're going to put everything together and make it trade, and then I'll probably make a couple more videos on some other useful things that I hope you find useful as well. Until then, bye-bye.